The extracurricular paragraph. Oh yes, this is a place in your personal statement where you can talk about all of the extra things that you've done outside of school, from music to sport to doing roles like prefect jobs. It's the place to highlight all of the skills you've learned, from good time management to have a good work-life balance to prioritization, and it allows us to link all of this into how you are going to be a fantastic doctor in the future. It's so important to remember that work and pure academic grades is only one half of life's story. It's so important to be interested in and to pick up things that are outside of your professional world. It's the stuff that over a lifetime will make you unique. Now, before I quickly list what you can put in this paragraph, I want to be really clear. Don't even think for a second that you can manage to fit all of it in. There simply won't be enough space. And so, I've been saying this for a few years now, write a separate list of activities that you won't be able to fit into your personal statement, and when you do speak to your teachers about your school reference, make sure to mention this, so that you can get these other activities mentioned by your school teachers in arguably what is the second personal statement. Remember, your school teacher's reference and your personal statement will be held side by side in your interviews, particularly if you're applying to Oxford and Cambridge. And so it's super important to make sure your school teachers and your school staff are aware of all of the amazing things that you've done outside of work all these years. Let's talk sports first. Whatever sport you play, if you play for your school team, your local county, or even on a national level, then it's super important to mention this linked to a few skills. For myself, during my school years, my main sport was rowing, and so this is what I focused on in terms of sporting achievement, but I also mentioned my 3-star BCU qualification in canoeing and kayaking that I gained whilst completing my Duke of Edinburgh award. You can also mention musical achievements. Whether you play the saxophone, the clarinet, or the violin, it's amazing to talk about what grades you have achieved, but also what you're working towards, on top of any other awards you've won for your wonderful musical abilities. I myself, since the age of 7 or 8, played the Carnatic violin, a South Indian form of violin, but also I sang. Once I got into school, I sang in my school's boys' choir for a few years, and then picked it back up as a second bass in the higher years of my school years. From having performed at the Royal Opera House, to having sung at some wonderful locations across the country, this was something that I was really keen about mentioning in my own statement. This is also the paragraph to mention any school prefect, head boy or head girl jobs that you've had. Another wonderful thing you can mention in this paragraph is any scouts activities or CCF, combined cadet force work you've done, but also any Duke of Edinburgh awards that you've picked up during your school years. So now you've got a short list of different things that you've done. But let's go through how you can incorporate and reflect on the different extracurricular activities that you've done. This is the paragraph out of all the paragraphs in the personal statement where it's easiest to, like a runaway train, start listing. It's not nice for the reader, nor is it nice for you once you look back at your personal statement in a few years' time. So to avoid listing, choose 3 or 4 different activities and link them to a few key skills that you've gained from these activities. So if you have worked really hard to achieve really high grades in a musical instrument over the years, then maybe talk about how you've developed your resilience and also how you've developed the ability to see and keep in mind always a long-term vision, allowing you to work hard in the short term towards that bigger goal. This is quite an important reflection because, as you know, medicine is a lifelong journey. People always say consider it to be a marathon and not a sprint. And I've seen, even at Cambridge, when people started off the medicine course, some people tried to sprint as fast as they can, and they burnt out quite quickly. So you've got to know your strengths, you've got to develop your strengths, you've got to develop your long-term motivation to succeed. And as many of you have already done, achieve really high grades in things like musical instruments. To link in your sporting achievements, maybe talk about how it's an effective method to relieve stress, which allows you to maintain a good work-life balance. Having good ways of relieving stress, particularly in a career such as medicine, will allow you to perform at a high level without burning out. In my personal statement, I linked in stress relief by mentioning the doctors I saw in the accident and emergency department of my local hospital, and how there, all of them talked about how they had many activities that allowed them to relieve their stress, to ensure that when they came into hospital that they were ready to perform at a high level and see all the patients and treat them at the best of their abilities. So as I've said, link in sport and how it has helped you manage your workload. For other roles you've done, such as being a prefect, a deputy head boy or a head girl, then you can mention the invaluable skills of teamwork, leadership and delegation. Try and talk about how during the time that you've been in that position, you've had to develop skills such as patience, which you hope will come in handy, and prioritization, which you can then comment on by talking about how you hope that these skills you've developed from these roles will help you work well as a team once you're part of the bigger healthcare team that you'll work in as a doctor, surgeon, or researcher. So hopefully now you can see how you can link in your extracurricular activities. Remember, don't go overboard, don't write more than 5-6 lines in total for this paragraph, because the other space is so valuable to use to reflect upon your work experience and your volunteering placements. That's what medical schools love. But remember, they do also appreciate a well-balanced student who can manage their work, who can manage their time well. And so don't underestimate the importance of writing this extracurricular paragraph well. So as always, I hope you found this video useful. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you really found it useful, then please subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out. And lastly, go follow me on Instagram to sort of keep up to date with other things I do in my life. As always, thank you so much for watching. Keep your eyes peeled for the next video of the series, which is the conclusion, and I'll catch you guys soon in the next video. Cheerio.